So now moving on to the next part of this project. There's that box that I made to put behind the stove to actually space it out, and you can see that I did make some spalted maple side panels for it. Now these are going to butt up against the granite, and there it is in place. The box is just kind of holding everything there, and it's just a placeholder. And I showed you that piece of stainless that I bent up, that sheet that I bought from Home Depot with the brown back panel. And here it is peeling off the plastic on the surface of it now. This plastic was really tough, and this thing was really well protected. I don't know how people on Home Depot's review site there reviewed these things so bad. They kept saying they had scratched ones and this, that, and the other thing. It's like basically impossible to scratch this thing. I think they actually were looking at the backside of it that's not exposed when making that comment, and didn't realize that this plastic had to be removed. But basically I peeled the plastic off here, and you can see that flawless finish on that piece. It was really well protected and well done. So that fit in there nice. That's all ready to go now. And then I slid the stove in, and you can see how it all fits together now. The little shelf for behind the stove there, and actually it's a path for the airflow too. And in the meantime, I stopped for the day, and my wife started making some stuffed peppers for tonight, and she took some of the peppers from our garden last year that were frozen and stuffed them up, threw them in the oven, and a little while later we had a nice meal out of them. So we had a real nice dinner out of them. It's fun enjoying the garden year round. So anyhow, the Whirlpool microwave oven that I ordered came. This is one I had ordered from Costco and waited 3 weeks. It was supposed to be delivered in 2 to 3 weeks, and it never showed up. And then they said it needed another 2 weeks to get here. So I ordered it from Home Depot, and 2 days later, 2 real friendly delivery guys drove up and dropped it off at my house. So I think from now on, that's the way I'll go with any kind of an appliance. Glad I didn't buy the other appliances from Costco, because I'd still be waiting for them. So this is a newer model. It's a real compact microwave. It's probably a lot of people, couldn't live with one this size, but it's perfect for my wife and I. It's only 10 and 5/16 inches tall. It's only 3 inches taller than the range hoods that we looked at. And the range hoods we looked at were several $100s for a stainless one, and this would only cost a little bit more for it. Plus, this actually has a really kick butt blower in it. It's got a 400 CFM blower in it. And there's the template panel that comes with it, and that's basically most of the instructions that you need right there. They do supply you with all these, big pages of instructions, but just for locating bolt holes, that's all you really need. On the bottom of it, there's a couple charcoal filters. I'm just going to use it as a recirculating, but there's other options for it. And if you look in there, you can see that big squirrel cage blower in there, and this thing does move some air. And being how it's sitting 6 inches back from the burners on the stove, which is what we really wanted, it's going to do a good job, I think. So you basically take that template there, and what I did is I clamped it to the bottom of the top cabinet there, and there's 2 tabs that are folded out there that are the location for the front mounting holes for it, and then there's another hole that I'm marking out there now that's an 1.5 inch hole for the power cord to go up through. So basically I just put it up there in place, and I marked the holes, and the front holes I wound up drilling through right through the template, and then I just tried dropping the bolts in place, but it turned out that they wouldn't quite sit up straight because they were too close to that front lip on the cabinet, and I had to just take a little bit off of them. So I just took them down to that little Harbor Freight belt sander that I got, and that ground it right off, and this time they just fit in there perfect, and everything's real nice, low profile and everything, so that's going to work out good. Really, it's really a pretty easy unit to mount too. When you all you have to do is basically drill these front holes, and then you need an 1.5 inch drill bit, which luckily I bought one at the dollar store a couple of weeks ago. So you need that to drill the other hole for the cord. So once I got the front holes drilled and the cord hole marked out, I just dropped that template down, And this really just makes it so easy to do. You just have to mark the center of the cabinets and line up the arrows on it, and it's a real good guide for installing it. And then once you get those front holes drilled and you're ready to do the other mount this, you bend those tabs down that are locators, and they just lay back. They're a little bit, they don't quite lay back flat, but they lay down pretty good, and they're not in the way down the line. So now I'm gonna just drill that 1.5-inch hole. You can see it's really a pretty good size hole, and I did clamp a piece of block of wood on the inside of the cabinet there, just because this particle board, you could tear a giant size hole out of the back if you don't actually back it up with something when you're drilling. Then once you get this hole drilled in the bottom here, you have to go back and start locating the holes for the that template to mount on the back wall there. So I laid it in place and I marked the holes out, and you need 2 bolts out by the corners, they say, and just so happens these holes were in midair. They're just in the sheetrock. There was no stud behind them, so I had to drill the 5/8 holes that they call for behind them, and then they supply you with some toggle bolts to hold them in. Then there's also some holes that have to be mounted on the studs. You need at least 2 stud connections on this bracket. So I just had to drill, I think it was a 3/16 pilot hole for the 2 lag bolts that they give you for mounting this unit in place. So, once you get them drilled, I actually wound up drilling 2 more holes also down in the stainless to put through the bracket and actually to hold the top of that stainless backsplash in place. There's those toggle bolts, and you have to start them put them through the panel and start them like that before you can install them. And they just pop through those big 5/8 holes, and then you pull the template forward a little bit while you're tightening them, and they open up behind the sheetrock on the back side, and you can tighten them right down there. So there it is. I'm adding just 2 extra screws on the bottom there that they actually go into the stud also, but they're just to hold that stainless from slipping or moving around. So there's the bracket all mounted on in place, ready to go. That's a real simple job, and just a couple of screws like you can see there. And this bracket actually supports the back of the microwave. So next thing to do is try to get it in place. Now they tell you that you need at least 2 people to mount this, and I have to agree with that after going through this. I did it with 1 person in a stool, and it was kind of tough going, and a little bit. It's rather heavy. I think the unit itself weighs right around 60 pounds maybe, or something like that. So it's a little bit of a struggle, and I started out by using the stool, and you just get it in place, and you have to pull that cord on the top up through the hole there. And then you can see I put a board, I clamped it between the 2 cabinets on either side of it to kind of let it rock down on and hold it up for me while I was pushing it back in, because the stool couldn't go back any further. So I got that, pretty much lined up back and pushed up against the mounting brackets, pretty much lined up in there. And then I just had to reach down underneath the bottom and just kind of push it up a little bit in the back more, and it actually hooked right in there to just push it up so that those brackets would go into the 2 slots that are in the bottom of the microwave, and that actually locks the back in place. And then once you get that locked, you just have to push the front up, which sounds like an easy job, but at this point in life, 60 pounds is pretty heavy. So I just had some pieces from the dishwasher packaging that I decided to raise it up and try to use that so I could get the front bolts started. They're pretty long, but the just the way it rocks up in place, you have to get it pretty close before you can actually start the bolts. So you end up taking a couple strips of wood under there to hold it up, and then I was able to start the screws real easily. And they just tighten up and they pull it right up against the cabinet. Now, the top of it does warp a little bit where the screws are, so it's not exactly flat when you're done, but it doesn't look bad. You really can't see it looking at it. and it does mount it really nice and firmly that way. So it's really a pretty simple job, and I would recommend, if you install one of these things, that you have a second person to kind of help hold things while you're putting it together. So basically, you can see this is just barely a little bit bigger than the range hood that I took out. It's about 3 inches taller. It's not really in the way of anything, and we have the stove sitting out 6 inches now. So actually, our big canning pots will be in front of it, and there you can see it will fit our needs, I think, really good. And it does have enough airflow in it that it does pull steam from the front burner. So it looks like it's going to be a good fit for our needs. So there you can see that little shelf I got under there. The unit's got a LED on the bottom, and it's got a bright setting, and then it's got a night light setting on it also. And my wife's got that little shelf there to put some things on. And the microwave itself is really nice, compact unit. It's if you look at it, though, there's a button that you push on it to open the front door, and it automatically opens the door. It unlocks it and kicks it out, and there's the inside. And it's got a special coating in there to actually release dirt and be clean. And the keypad's actually behind the door when it's closed. There you can see you can only get a pot in there, or plate in there, that's about 6.5 inches tall. So you can't expect to cook a lot in it, but it's perfect for us to just reheat things. And you can see there it is with the just running, and you can see through that front window pretty good. It's got nice LEDs on it and stuff. And then in the meantime, the reason we got this was to remove the old microwave from the counter and free up a couple square feet more counter space for my wife. Took that out, and I moved that drawer that I built for it a while back over under the seal meal there, and that's still staying in the kitchen. And at least my wife doesn't have to pull her mixer and pull it out and carry it around anymore. She can just pull it out and use it. So, this is just a Whirlpool microwave that we bought. I don't know how good it is or how long it'll last. About the only thing that doesn't match is the front panel of it is a different color. The sides of it are the exact stainless steel, but the front is a fingerprint resistant one. It's got a little bit different color than the stove and stuff, but actually it doesn't look bad. Plus, there's no glare in your eyes off the lights from it. So, it is a nice combination, I think, with the Samsung appliances. And, we do have more area free there in the kitchen to use now, so it'll be easier for her. And there's the night light that it has in it. At night, the little LED, you can put it on low, and it works really good. And I'll do a follow-up on it, once we get to use it for a while. In the meantime, today we had to go down and select our slab, and here's the first view of our countertops here. It's called Solaris. It's from Brazil, and there's our slab that we're actually going to be, they're going to make our countertops from. And basically, we're just going to be using the bottom half of that slab, we decided. They should be able to get all their counters out of that, and it's probably about 6 feet tall by maybe 10, 11 feet long. So, it's going to be a nice counter, I think. Thanks for watching. Please subscribe.